Jaden Ivey got his first career DNP, and now Billy Donovan comes out with even more comments after Jaden Ivey's concerning ones. And I'm going to talk about that, but also how this links to, out of everything that the Bulls got, all the players the Bulls got back at the trade deadline, they may have not gotten a single piece that's going to be here as part of the future. We're talking about what that means. We're also going to dive into the mailbag, all that and more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Derek Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And I want to start off with this comment in regards to Billy Donovan and what he said about Jaden Ivey. He talked about Jaden Ivey yesterday, but first I want to get to what Jaden Ivey said. Yes, after the last game, he said this: "I'm not the same player I used to be. That's why I'm not the J.I. I used to be. The OJI is dead." And that, of course, sent shockwaves through a lot of Bulls fans and looked at what does that mean for Jaden Ivey? Like, it's clear that he hasn't been the same player on the court. Now, hearing that the OJI is dead, it raises the stakes a little bit because, Jaden Ivey doesn't have the step that he used to. There's times where I've seen him have the first step on a player and he just doesn't take it. He stops, he hesitates, where he used to, would have pushed the issue, got to the rim, even got to the free throw line. He's just not doing that. He's passing. But Jaden Ivey's comments to me are indicative of a player that's in his head. He doesn't yet trust his body, so of course he feels like the OJI is dead. And again, that is hugely concerning there. Now, I want to be clear here. The injury that Jaden Ivey had, most players make 100% recovery from. Most players do. And so, when it comes down to that, the broken fibula, there was no ligament damage, nothing like that. Tibia is what he did. That fracture players usually come back to. Then he had offseason knee injury. I think we have to keep in frame here. Like, he didn't come back until late November, right? We're in late February now, but he's only back to playing a couple of months really since his return. And, it takes players a while to be on the court to trust that. And I hope that that's really what this is. Before he got injured, 2024-25, 17.6 points per game, 4 assists per game. He's getting to the free throw line almost 4.5 times per game as well. He was a player that grew as an off-ball player as well, playing with Cade Cunningham. Of course, he joined the Detroit Pistons team that by the time he came back, they were the number one team in the East, which they still are, and they had made some serious progress. And so, of course, they didn't have time to integrate him. He wasn't playing a lot of minutes, less than 17 minutes per game. So, of course, I'm going to hope that this is just a mental thing for Jaden Ivey. That's what I hope, is this just right now a mental thing for Jaden Ivey, and that he'll eventually work this out. Whether he's on the Bulls or not, just as a player and as a human, hope that he's able to figure it out long term, right? But with that said, these comments from Billy Donovan yesterday throw even more concern on it, where he said this: "I don't think he's played to the level that I think he's capable of playing, or he has played at. In my opinion, he's not moving like he once did." And, there's some things there. Now, he did say that Jaden Ivey was experiencing some discomfort in the left knee, which, again, that's kind of part of the natural progression back from that type of injury right there. He missed Friday's practice as well, which when you compare that with the DNP and all of that, it's just a lot of concerns right now around Jaden Ivey. And so I hope that he's able, the part that I hope is that he's able to just work the rest of the season, play some, building confidence, attack the offseason. That's really what the focus needs to be for Jaden Ivey. Attack the offseason. And if you can do that, maybe he'll come back with even more, confidence in that leg, and then we can see closer to the Jaden Ivey that we saw before he went down with that injury. We just got to see. But my own thoughts now coming from this, right? Coming from this Jaden Ivey thing, and this is where my mind went to it, is that we can come out of this trade deadline with all the moves that we made and not have a single piece for the future. And that would be a travesty. Now, not saying that a lot of these guys you looked at and you're like, oh my God, they're going to stay with the Bulls long term or anything like that. But like some of these guys that they had a chance to, and some of these guys, still do have a chance. I'm not saying that they can't, but it's like it further proves and goes to show that if none of these guys turn into future pieces, the Bulls really gained nothing from the trade deadline. Yeah, they gained second round picks, but the cap flexibility was already there, right? They remove guys like and for the people that still are so upset about the Io trade, which I find myself in the camp of, it just highlights that further. Like, let's just break this down. Jaden Ivey first. Jaden Ivey, right? One of the pieces that in that trade at the trade deadline you looked at and said, young guy, restricted free agent. You looked at what he was able to do before, and it looked like, okay, this is a piece of the Bulls definitely could try to, like, if he gets back to himself, this is a future piece. Whether he's the backcourt mate next to Josh Giddey or the scoring guard off the bench, there's definitely a future for Jaden Ivey here. Now, with all of this, there's doubt around that. He's getting DNPs. He's saying the OJI is dead. Billy Donovan saying he doesn't trust or like the way that he's moving out there. And then on top of that, like, you go into a restricted free agency, you like to think that you want to get most of the data. Are the Bulls, is there a chance that the Bulls don't even tender him a qualifying offer? Is that a legitimate chance there? I'd say maybe. Now, I do think they're going to extend him a qualifying offer at the beginning of free agency, but you can rescind a qualifying offer. And I would not be surprised if, as the Bulls maneuver through free agency, if they do something to where they do go ahead and rescind that qualifying offer and just say, hey, Jaden Ivey, go find you another team. That is a very real possibility here, and that's a huge one. Rob Dillingham may just not be that good. Like, Rob Dillingham, the other piece, the only piece that we got that actually has a contract for next season that we got back at this trade deadline, it's completely possible that Rob Dillingham just isn't good. He just isn't good. Now, I know Rob Dillingham has his fans in the community, and that's perfectly fine because there is talent there. There's a reason he was drafted top 10. But when you look at it, like, and I'm not saying that the Bulls trade him this offseason. I don't think that happens at all. But I'm saying that he just may not turn out to be a piece of the future because he's just not that good. He may be on the roster, rookie scale deal. They may see it out the next 2 years, but it's very possible that Rob Dillingham just does not have a role on this team, does not play a lot, and we've seen that happen before, not just with the Bulls, but from other teams. So it's possible Rob Dillingham isn't a piece of the future, even if he is on the team in the future, and therefore he still didn't get another future piece. Then you look at Collin Sexton and Anfernee Simons, two guards, as you kind of know what they are as players, scoring guys, unrestricted free agents at the end of the year. It's a very real possibility that the Bulls may try to keep one or both of those guys, but due to the nature of them being unrestricted free agents, there's a complete possibility as well that they go to a team that they feel like they can win on, especially Anfernee Simons. Anfernee Simons is definitely a player that I think a lot of teams could look at and say, hey, this guy can come and be a scorer. Now, some of those teams aren't going to be able to offer him the money that he wants unless it's the sign and trade, which could open some doors for the Chicago Bulls. But if he's willing to take less money to go to a winning situation, which he's already talked about how much he appreciated winning and getting the win in Boston, man, again, you could lose both those guys. They cannot be on your roster in the future. And therefore, again, you got no future assets in that case. Now, the thing that could flip that is if you are able to get sign-in trades for those guys and get something back for that, even if it is more second-round picks, then it opens up some. You also could open up trade exceptions if you do that as well. So, there's that part of it, but we'll see. We'll see. I do think the Bulls are going to try to keep those guys. They're going to make offers. They're going to sit down and talk with them in the offseason. I just don't know how fruitful those talks are going to be. And then Buzelis and Nick Richards, two very solid role players, but okay, like Nick Richards is a depth big that teams could definitely look at to add some depth to the big man rotation. And again, those can be contending teams. And then Buzelis, we don't even know if he's going to stay in the States. Like, now that he is playing minutes with the Chicago Bulls, maybe there's more a runway there for him to want to stay. Whereas with the Knicks, since he wasn't playing, there's a lot of rumor and talk that he wanted to go back overseas. So maybe that does change because he has a role here, and maybe some other teams see that. But those are guys that also could not be a future. And then lastly, Leonard Miller. Now, I know that Leonard Miller has some fans in the Bulls community. There are some people that really do talk very glowingly about why Leonard Miller should have an opportunity on this roster, why he should play, why he should stick around, and all that type of stuff. And I'm not even fighting any of y'all on that. Listen, it is what it is. 22-year-old kid, very young, 6'10", 220 pounds, offers some versatile forward stuff there potentially, but the Bulls aren't even playing him. The Bulls weren't even playing him when we didn't have anybody on the roster. He played 2 games and averaged 4.5 minutes through those 2 games. So he's only played 9 minutes since being traded to the Chicago Bulls. That does not feel, at least, like a piece that the Bulls are looking at as a future piece for this team. So, again, of all the players that we acquired, we could seriously be talking at the start of next season of none of those guys potentially being here or having a big role on the team in the case of Rob Dillingham. There is a legitimate possibility of that. And so, therefore, it goes back to AK to say, all right, if none of these guys are here for the future, that means you value the space and the flexibility that having them here offered. What are you going to do with it? And it leads us back to the thing that we keep talking about. This is an offseason where AK got some shit to prove, and he got to prove it because, hey, listen, all the opportunity, all the capacity, all the things that you, all the potential to make moves are all fine and dandy. That's great that you created yourself opportunity to have that. You created flexibility for yourself, which a lot of NBA teams don't have. But what are you going to do with that flexibility? And that's where a lot of things get left out for the Chicago Bulls, and we don't see AK capitalize on, and that's why the Bulls fan base doesn't have faith in them. So that's what we're going to see, right? And I think now even more so when you look at the new tanking rules that could be coming, is that it highlights even further like this isn't going to be a multi-year tank for the Chicago Bulls. They are getting their lottery pick now. They're taking their shot in the lottery now, and this may be it, right? Because the NBA, according to Shams, they're going to be voting on something to do something about tanking. Now, it may take a year or two before it ratified, and most of the rules that we've heard about are more so for repeated tankers, right? Teams that do it over multiple years. But at the same time, the Bulls need to make their move this offseason. This is why getting these first-round picks and getting them right, the players that you draft, them actually turning into something, not taking any of these projects that don't really amount to anything. This is hugely important for AK to get it done this offseason, because if he does not, that's where we're going to be right back where we were, right back in the same spot, right back in the space where you've created, cool, you got a draft pick, but they ain't turning into shit. And that's what AK has to avoid in this one. So listen, meaningful change. That's what the Bulls need here. And the flexibility and all that stuff is all great. But if it does not come with hitting on a draft pick, that's the first thing. Hit on your damn draft pick. Hit on your damn draft pick. And then with what you want to do in free agent, I know that Bulls fans have this whole daydream of a 2K offseason where we do a bunch of stuff. And while we do have the capability to do that, trade exceptions, mid-level exceptions, cap space, all that, right? We have that space to do that. I'll just say AK has to show that he has the willingness and he has the foresight to be able to execute on that. And that may be where some of my doubts and other Bulls fans' doubts come about. So we'll see what's going to happen there. But with that said, it is Saturday. That means it is mailbag day. Let's get into these voicemails. This first one that we got, this one's from Reginald.
Hey, Hayes. This is Reginald calling after the Bulls lost to Toronto. You know, I knew they were going to lose. It was obvious. But when it didn't become obvious that the Bulls were going to, take until I saw the lineup on the court with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. I saw Modest and P. Will out there where both were having terrible games. In fact, I don't think P. Will even took a shot in the fourth quarter. He may have taken like 2 all the third, despite the fact that outside of Simons, the Bulls didn't really even have a second option. So you could have taken as many shots as you wanted. He just chose not to. He looked up and said, okay, I took 8 shots. That's enough. Modest was having a terrible shooting night as well. Neither man should have been on the floor. The lineup should have been Smith, Buzelis, Okoro, Trey Jones, and Anfernee Simons. And that's it. Those final 5 minutes of the game. And when they got it close to like within 4, they subbed out Modest for Giddey when you needed multiple stops and multiple buckets. And we all know that's not getting straight. Especially now they come back off an injury. So at this point, the tank is in, and the coaches are going to make sure it's happening, even with Billy gone. So I think this is just the new reality of the Bulls. And as far as Patrick Williams goes, no team's ever going to trade for him. Not even as a salary dump. I think the only thing the Bulls can do this offseason, if they want to get any sort of fan support back, is to buy out Patrick Williams. At this point, you're not going to get any value for him. He's just taking up a spot. Buzelis was averaging like 3 minutes a game in New York, and he immediately came in and took his spot. Same with Okoro, same with Modest. In fact, I think Day, if he had stayed, would have taken P.Will's spot. P.Will would have got off the bench. That's how bad he's playing. But Even though the odds are extremely low, what do you think about the Bulls buying out Patrick Williams? Thanks for hearing me out.
Tanking is the new reality may be the best line that you've ever said on this show on any voicemail, Reggie. And I don't mean that like to slight you at all. I want to be clear. No slighting that at all. That was an amazing line because it is. Tanking is the new reality for the Chicago Bulls team. It is the new reality for Chicago Bulls fan. It is the new place of where we are. It's clear, it's evident, it's loud, and they're showing us with their action. That is the reality for the rest of this season. Now, I don't think that they're going into that playing that next season. I think AK, it feels like he's about to cook. Now, the problem is the meal that you're about to make anything that anybody wants. And we'll see what happens there. It starts with the draft. The Bulls have to get this draft right. And if you can't get this draft right, then okay, now hit on free agency. Can you go out there, whether you draft the center or you draft the best player available, the player that you think is going to turn into a star, which is perfectly fine. If that's your focus, then go and find your center in free agency, at least a center that can be here while you develop or find your center of the future. Something of that, a mixture of both. That's what AK has to do here, and that's the needle that he has to thread, and we'll see that if he can do it. Again, I'm at the place now where I understand that there is a possibility he has opened up avenues to do that, but I'm not going to trust that he gets that done. He's going to have to show me, and we'll see. All right, let's get into this next voicemail, man. This one's from Shay.
What's up, Hayes? It's Shay. Look here, man. You know, this Rob Dillingham situation reminds me of Cameron Payne when we traded Doug McDermott and Taj Gibson for Cameron Payne. I don't know if you remember back in there. You probably do. It was the same year the 3 Alpha season. I don't think this is going to work out long term. Look, I hope I'm wrong, but the way I see it, we ain't never known this team to develop nobody. Now, I know people going to say, oh, Ayo DeSumo and Midas Buzelis, but let's think about it. Ayo was kind of already had a glimpse of offensive ability when he came into the league. Now he didn't have a consistent three-point shot until this year, but he had some oomph to him. Think about it. His rookie season, I think he scored 30 points against the Boston Celtics or something like that. And he made the second team all-rookie team. So did Midas Buzelis. And hell, Midas Buzelis, before he even got to the actual NBA, he played in the G League. So I wouldn't necessarily say those two players count. And when you look at our history of raw talent, Dalen Terry, Patrick Williams, who's still on the damn team, Julian Phillips, do you really trust this team to develop any raw prospects, even Noah Senge? Look, I say this. After this season, cut our losses and move Rob Dillingham for a second-round pick or something like that, or trade him for a serviceable player like we did with the Dalen Terry. Because I look at it like this: Rob Dillingham and Dalen Terry are close around the same age. I know Dalen Terry's probably 23, like 2 years older, but think about it. We gave up on him and Julian Phillips. And Julian Phillips was probably the same age as Rob Dillingham. So what makes Rob Dillingham any different? Anyway, Hayes, I hope you read this, listen to this, and tell me what you think. Peace.
Rob Dillingham reminded you of Cam Payne. I can't say that. I get what you're saying in the sense of development. Like, of course, every Bulls fan has the question on, is this Bulls team actually going to be able to develop something? I think every Bulls fan have that. But with Rob Dillingham, it's a little bit different, right? Like Cam Payne, to me, he just wasn't good. Rob Dillingham, he was all, like, if you look at college Rob Dillingham versus like college Cam Payne, it's night and day. Like Rob Dillingham was a monster in college. So you like to think that there is more potential there than was ever there with Cam Payne if we're being real in it. But the question is, he's undersized, all that type of stuff. Cam Payne was 6'3", Rob Dillingham 6'1". Like, what's going to happen there? And so Rob is a player that is a shooting guard in a point guard's body. That's what it is. But I guess in the sense, Cam Payne was also a lottery pick, into the lottery pick, but he was also a lottery pick. But Rob Dillingham, top 10 pick. And I don't really compare. Like Julian Phillips was a second-round pick. Dalen Terry was a late first-round pick. There was consensus that Rob Dillingham was a top 10 player in that draft. So like there has to be some semblance of talent in there. We just got to see if we can get it, but we'll see. We'll see. I don't hate on your concerns there because Like, can the Bulls do it? Because nobody really trusts the Bulls' development. I don't even know if the Bulls trust their own development personally. Who knows? All right, let's get into this last voicemail for today, man. This one's from Diego.
What's up, Hayes? My name is Diego Martinez. I live over here in Atlanta. Huge Bulls fan since 2000. Huge fan of what you do. Always putting out news for Bulls. I'm always watching your videos while I work. Even when I take a long drive, I'll put a video on. I actually just came off of one of your recent videos. I'm like, you know what? Let me call him. Let me talk about it. See if we're on the same page a little bit. But I think people, at least with this Bulls group we got, it's all over the place. We all know that. It's fucked up. We're in full tank mode, no doubt about it. I think players like Buzelis, they've been okay, but they're not part of this future, in my opinion. He's just serviceable for now, and he's going to rock out for now. What we got at the guard spot, we already know it's crazy, man. But what I do like is keeping Giddey. Of course, that's a no-brainer. I'm still not there with Rob, with Dillingham. He's shown some flashes, but, with the whole thing, old guard mix-up, I think what we do see next season, let me see, I want to kind of hear what you think. I think we do see Giddey at the 1 still. I think we're going to let go of Collin Sexton. I think we do find a way to keep Anfernee. I think, I'm just like you, I'm a huge Anfernee fan. I think keeping him on the team helps people like Giddey, helps, a couple other guys. He's a great scorer. I think Collin Sexton, he's going to pack his bags. We keep Rob and Trey. I'll be honest, Trey Jones is gone. I don't think he's a part of the future either. This is a real rebuild. We keep Jaden Ivey. We keep Josh Giddey. We keep Rob Dillingham. Those are our 4 guards right there. Boom, boom, boom. Keep Anfernee Simons. He probably won't be here in a couple years, but, we keep him around. Let him, rock out with these guys, because at the end of the day, you never know. Nick Richards, he looked good for the 2 games. Trash. I kick him in the street if it was me. We got to keep him around right now. We got no bigs. I love Jalen Smith. He probably won't be here too long. Zach Collins, like him, probably won't be here too long. I think this Bulls team in a year or 2 from now, only players that we're going to see on there is Josh Giddey, Matas. We're going to have Rob. We're going to have Jaden Ivey. I think those are the only guys that I could see. And fuck Patrick Williams. I'm tired of his ass, too. Get him up out of here. See what you think. I think those guys there between Josh Giddey, Matas, Rob, Jaden Ivey. Noah Senge. Can't forget about Noah. I don't know, we haven't talked about Noah. Hopefully, he turns out, go Bulls.
I mean, you hit on kind of the topic that I opened the show with. Like, I don't know. Like, you went more into like Trey Jones. Is he's there? Like, I think Trey Jones stays unless they trust Rob Dillingham, and I don't think the Rob Dillingham has shown anything where the Bulls are going to trust that he's going to be able to be the backup point guard of the future. So I don't think Trey's going anywhere unless they do believe in Rob Dillingham, or unless the team comes calling and offers something and the Bulls just feel like they can't miss on. Like, if it takes Trey Jones and your first round pick to move, let's say your pick ends up out of the top 10, but it takes that to move into the top 10, would you do that? Yeah, you do that, right? So, those type of things that I think is a possibility here. Right now, everything's open. I think every single thing is open. Of course, we know Modest, Josh Giddey, Noah Senge, those are going to be guys that are part of the future of this team for sure. We know that. But Trey Jones, Jalen Smith, those guys can be there as well, right? Patrick Williams is not going anywhere. Nobody's going to take P. Will. And that's an unfortunate part of that because, they didn't have to give P. Will that level of contract, but they did, and now we're all dealing with it. So that's just it. And we'll see how all this shakes out, but the roster flexibility is going to be a big thing to watch this offseason because there's a lot of runway of what you can do with this roster, and I don't think the Bulls can upgrade any position. They can draft any position, and I don't think they're beholden to anybody necessarily on this roster. Now, they may let's say you go out, you draft a center, right? Let's say and you also draft a defensive wing. Maybe you do look to keep Anfernee Simons at that point. Maybe you look to keep Simons as the 2 next to that, and you have a 3 that you trust with next to Modest. Modest still at the 4, Noah Senge as the guy between those. Like, there's a lot of possibility in runway there. We just got to see what AK and the Bulls are going to do with it. Hopefully they make something happen, because if they do, which we know that there's a possibility of doing, then we can start making some forward progress is what I'll label it at, and we'll see there, right? This year may be the last year tanking works, right? And in the way that it has for teams. And the Chicago Bulls find themselves of seemingly valuing draft position. but are they executing it smartly? That is the question here. Are we going to watch another half measure for the Chicago Bulls? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Who stays on this roster long term that's currently on it? Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. You guys can follow us at Bull Central Pod on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.